Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Let the filibustering begin.
Welcome to Nerd Party.
Hello and welcome to Filibuster here on the Nerd Party Network. In the second part of our Edinburgh Film Festival interview series, we're joined by the talent involved in acting, producing, writing and directing End of Sentence, Alice, Carmilla, Masters of Love, She's Missing and Mrs. Lowry and Son. Each interview will come with an introduction segment telling you about the talent involved and a little bit about the film itself. Up first, we speak with Oscar nominee and one of Hollywood's most famous faces, John Hawkes, and director Elfar Adalsteins about End of Sentence. After being widowed, Frank Fogel, played by John Hawkes, embarks on a journey to honour his wife's last wish of spreading her ashes in a remote lake in her native Ireland, and a promise of taking his estranged son, Sean, along for the trip. As Sean steps out of prison, the last thing on his mind is a foreign road trip with his alienated father. What he needs is a fresh start in California, but when his travel plans collapse, he reluctantly accepts his father's proposal in return for a ticket to the West Coast and a promise that they will never have to see each other again. Enjoy. I saw the film the other day. I caught the second press screening of it, and I hadn't sort of heard much about it. And a friend went to me, it's one of the best films of the festival, and it's one of those things like, I don't know about you guys, but when you see lots of films in a row, you're always looking for that one that just wants something that's going to hit me emotionally. And it came out, that was the first film of the festival amongst like 30 odd that got a little tear in my eye, and everyone seems to be buzzing about this film. But I wanted to know, how did you guys get involved in the film, and probably firstly with you?
Yes. I was introduced to Michael by a mutual friend, Michael Armbruster, wrote the script about 5-6 years ago. And she read the script and thought we'd make a good pairing. Mm-hmm. And I read the script and met him. And I suppose we hit it off in the sense that we decided to work on it together. It was set in another country, mm-hmm. But I wanted to at least test Ireland out because I thought it'd make the perfect sort of setting for the film to travel to. And we did a road trip, Michael and I, in a small Nissan Micra. Oh, wow. And we ripped through the country. And I think he was scared to death, with me driving on the wrong side of the road. And we stayed there for 5 days. And it was just on the first day we knew, it was the right setting. The people, the warmth, the scenery. We didn't want to make a postcard of Ireland, but it somehow felt real and visceral and right for this film. And off we went and worked on the script, found sort of the emotional spine that made it personal for both of us. I think it's very important for a writer-director relationship to find the mutual emotional drive of the film. To have sort of personal investment and so it comes from a truthful place, a heartfelt place, especially for a film like this. And that's kind of the backstory.
And when did you sort of get involved, John? I don't imagine you got shipped around in sort of a small Nissan.
No, I wish I would have been there. I came on I guess 3 years ago maybe I might have read the script, and as an actor, I try to find an amazing role in an amazing script told by amazing people. And so the first two were there, and then to meet Elfar and Joni Sigvansson who helped produce, yes. And we sat down and had a lunch, and I thought I could work with these gentlemen, and in particular Elfar. I knew I'd be joined at the hip too for a bit. And we just began from there. Yeah. Yes.
I love the relationship between you and your son Sean in the film. It really comes through together. What was it like for you to have that relationship on the film, and what was it like for you behind the camera, just watching this dynamic relationship kind of unfold in front of you?
Well, for me it was a real pleasure. It's always complicated fun, if it's done right. And Logan Lerman was just really fantastic playing Sean. Got on with him from the start. He's a gifted actor, and for his age, really a bit of a dramaturg, a guy who doesn't just look at his role, wants to understand the piece as a whole and how he fits. And so I appreciated that. We would have meetings every Sunday, the three of us, and discuss the week's work ahead. And those meetings were always intense and fruitful, and it was a really good way to work. To have for all of us to be away from our homes, I think was just helped add to the kind of stranger in a strange land vibe shooting there. But to be able to sit down and really work on the script kind of weekly, or just work on the scenes was terrific. So yeah, it was a great experience working with Sean.
The starting point was very positive because Logan, and I'm not telling any secrets here, wanted to work with John, and he was excited about that. He came on board after John had signed on to the film and was attached. But I knew when we were on set, or sort of we started the rehearsal period or the preparation period, that there was kinship there. He's a musician as well. He John brought his guitar, Logan I brought mine, Sarah, we all had our guitars.
Sure, you were singing the good Irish ballads all by the end of that holiday. I'm sure Black and Tans, all that stuff.
Exactly. And it was just, I thought there was a kinship there and an emotional connection very early on. And that's always a very gratifying thing for the director to feel that things are coming emotionally together at the right time. So it was a natural coming together of everyone involved, I think, with these leads, and I think that reflects on the screen. So that there wasn't any specific thing that needed to be done. There was a connection there that hopefully portrays itself.
Yeah, you were talking about like rehearsals. Did anything sort of come out of the rehearsal you thought we're going to maybe change this, like maybe sort of a comic moment or a moment you thought I can really see something there? Did anything kind of change from that?
We didn't rehearse in the sense that we didn't go over the script and go over the lines. We read through the script, and rehearsals for me at least, it's more about asking questions. It's not necessarily giving answers. So rehearsals is the wrong word. I think that's more for theatre. Right. But for cinema, rehearsals is a sort of a mutual analysis of unpacking the emotional landscape of the character in question, and you talk about causality. Why do people do the things they do, and not do the things they do? And so I would say rehearsal is misnamed. It should be called the preparation time between an actor and director. Yeah. So, but for me, I could feel there was a strong connection to the material from the offset.
Yeah. Very quickly, certainly I've worked with directors who want to put the scene on its feet, and you're in a hotel room or somewhere, and you're actually doing blocking and walking around and things like that. There's none of that here, which I think is great, because I feel like one amazing thing about film is that it loves to capture something happening for the first time and only time between actors. And if you rehearse, sometimes that happens and the camera's not rolling. That makes me very nervous. I'd rather those moments just be caught, and I feel like we found some of those, which is great. And we didn't, again, change a lot of lines or so much as ask, why is this here? Why is this important? What are we trying to accomplish? Basically.
Well, we tested lines that we didn't feel were true. Maybe further down the line, we tested, and that's a great thing. When you're so embedded in the piece and in the characters. Again, causality takes over, and you're always searching for the truth in each moment. I know it may sound like a cliche, but that's what you're trying to do.
Well, if you're lucky, and I guess if you prepare well, you, particularly as a director, I imagine the first shot is this empty canvas where you lay, to mix my metaphors, but one puzzle piece, and then everything goes off of that kind of puzzle piece. But the great thing that I think we found is that pretty quickly you stop leading the film, and the film begins to lead you. Yes. That was really a great thing.
This is also your first feature. Has it been everything that you kind of hoped it to be and expected it to be, and has there been anything that's caught you by surprise?
Not by surprise. I knew, I'd made short films and I worked as a producer on various features, both in Iceland and abroad. So not really. I in the editing process, maybe how that's the third time you assemble a film and how it again finds its spine, and how tricky that can be, because I'm quite meticulous when it comes to editing. So yeah, maybe the I thought that might be maybe a little bit stress-free than it was. You dig into it.
Yeah.
It can take a little bit out of you. But no, it was a wonderful film for me to work on. I was blessed with obviously a great cast to collaborate with, and very supportive producers that worked on it with me, and we had a great crew in Ireland as well.
That was fantastic. Yeah, the Irish crew and just a plethora of amazing Irish actors. And really enjoyable. Yeah, people at the top of their game, I felt like.
You've had such a long and varied career. You've starred in so many films and shows I love as well. Where does this sort of film fit in with all the kind of different characters you've played? Is there something that feels different this time to maybe something else that you've done before?
They always feel different for sure, but Frank was a character that I just loved him, and that's not always the case, but for some reason I really related to his kind of underdog sense, which I often am lucky enough to find in the roles I play. I love playing characters who aren't equipped to solve the problem they're trying to solve. They don't have the proper tools, but they continue to forge ahead. And for Frank, I feel like there was a great deal of frustration and anger beneath the surface, and it was really fun to just push that down until it could no longer stay down and come out in the climactic scene in the hotel when my son and I have a little set to.
Absolutely. And this film is obviously getting its world premiere here in Edinburgh. How does it feel to sort of be at the end of the journey where it's now going to go out in public? We'll see. I've seen it and loved it, and friends have loved it. What's it like now to bring it to a public, and where's the film kind of going to go next?
It's the beginning of the journey.
Yeah.
Another beginning.
Another beginning.
I look forward to the beginning of it on Blu-ray, and then in future 4K, the beginning of that.
Well, it's going to go from here to America. It's going to go to Iceland. I believe it's going to Tokyo and some various places, 2 or 3 places in America. But it's a European film at heart, so we wanted to start here, and it feels right, and then kind of bring it across the pond. And so I would say we will do 6 to 8 festivals, and then hopefully followed by a release in the US, and then it trickles out here to Europe.
Absolutely. And with this film, like I was saying, there's so many moments where you can always pick your favourite moments. I'm not going to spoil it, but one of my favourite moments is a scene where something gets placed on a table coming out, and you just see it in the cinema, like you watch it out and you're like, oh my god, it's going to happen. What's been the moment for you when you watch this finished feature where you think that brings back a special memory of shooting for a day, or that's the moment I think audiences are really going to love?
It's a good question.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
You'll be watching it tonight.
I was in the cinema when this particular moment happened, and one of the audience members said, "No, out loud."
I thought it was like Jaws. You just see it coming closer. It's like you can hear the music going, "Did it?" and you're like, "Oh no, it's going to go in the tray. It's going to go in the tray."
Yeah. For me, a couple of moments that I like the ending. For me now is. Because we shot more. There is an addendum to the film in the script that was unnecessary, and I realised that in the edit. No, this is where the film must end. And for me, everything around the lake is special. Yeah. So I would think about that, and apart from the fact when we were shooting the scene when Frank and Sean are talking together in a big emotional moment, the air became full with midges.
Oh no!
Millions of them.
Yeah.
You couldn't see.
Do you get midges in America?
I don't think so.
No, that seems to be a very UK.
But that's the key. When you have great actors, they do 1 or 2 takes, and that's all you need, and you get the hell out of it, because it.
Those were hard days. It was a very cold lake, and those were some biting little bugs.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, being an actor is. I've had real jobs. Let's face it. Being an actor is not necessarily the most difficult vocation, but it's got its moments. And really quickly for me, the scene that just came back to me as something that I was really jazzed by, I guess, was Sarah Bolger singing in the pub. I with that band and her together, and it was done live, and it was just a magical scene, and I felt like that's one of the most beautiful moments I've ever seen as an actor, watching the work around me. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
And I agree with you about that ending. It's just pitch perfect, because I expected it to, okay, that's it, and then we'll see them off at the airport. And it's just like, why not just leave it on that? It's just a beautiful shot, and it's just one of those nice endings you watch and go, what? Nothing more was needed.
Well, also, if you take a story in purist terms, Mamet and all these people, you have an objective, and the objective is, on the surface, is to reach that lake. So when you've reached that lake, the story has to end. And you can only see it, I think, in retrospective, and realize it when it's sitting there right in front of you. So, that's all it needed, and I think it's all we should be allowed. We shouldn't be allowed to follow them around anymore.
Absolutely.
Just saying, the audience can then form their own denouement, their own.
Absolutely.
What comes after, yes.
Yeah. And Sarah did sing that live in the room, pitch perfect. Yeah. No dubbing, nothing. She has perfect pitch. She was wonderful on the day.
Well, thank you very much. I wish you all the best for the world premiere tonight. I'm sure it'll be a fantastic experience.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see it with a full audience.
Thank you so much.
Writer-director Emily Harris joins me to discuss her debut feature, Carmilla. 15-year-old Lara lives with her father and strict governess Miss Fontaine in total isolation, and is struggling to find an outlet for her curiosity and her sexuality. When a carriage crash nearby brings a young girl into the family home to recuperate, Lara is enchanted by the mysterious Carmilla. I'd sort of never heard about Carmilla as even a story before. I watched it and I thought, oh wow, I'll check this out. And then when I sort of dived in, I didn't realise it had been based on a sort of story at all. When did you sort of first read this book, and what was the moment you thought, I want to adapt this and turn this into a film?
Yeah, I think after reading it, I wanted to adapt it. I didn't know about the book. I realised it has quite a following, actually. That wasn't how I came to it. Someone had mentioned it and read it, and it has been, it's material that a lot of filmmakers have visited, and there are versions of it, and I think that's an interesting challenge. To kind of do your own version. It's a bit like, I suppose, when a song has been covered by many artists, it will always it's gonna sound different or be different, and you're not going to appeal to the same fan base necessarily. So there's that aspect of it. But I think it's really rich material, and it offers many interpretations. So I think that was appealing.
When you're sort of scripting it, do you check out the other works to go, right, I want to see if I'm going to clash over with anyone, or I'm going to watch them and see what I take away so I can maybe avoid some of that, or, oh, that's maybe an interesting road. How do you sort of go around either isolating yourself or checking out what's already there?
Yeah, it's a great question, because actually when I read the book I didn't realise there were so many adaptations. I thought, oh my god, what a find, this is great material for a film, and then realised there were about 10 over the decades, and I made an active point not to watch a single one of them, not even the web series, nothing. So I still haven't. I think now maybe as enough time has passed I could dip into those, but it was absolutely fine. I didn't want it to subconsciously come into play when I was doing my version.
When you were scripting it, did you have it always in mind that you were going to be the one to direct it, or was it, I'm going to write a script, maybe I'll sell it, maybe I'll throw it out there, or was it always that I'm writing this for me to direct?
It was actually the other way around. I wanted to direct it, but not necessarily write it. So there was actually a process of trying to find another writer. There was a very early process of working with another writer, and he's credited as an additional writer, and rightly so. He was a big part of that early process. So it was. I think in the end, inevitably, it had to be my way into the material. It is, when you start excavating underlying material and trying to access your own version of it and your own angle, I think it's, at least for my creative process, it would have been difficult if someone else were to completely write a version of that for me to direct. So the two kind of ended up having to go together.
Obviously, this is the only version I've ever seen of it, and having not read the book, but I thought it was one of those ones I watched and I thought this could only have been written and directed by a female eye, and especially sort of the story that was always told. Was that something that was important to you, to bring that touch to it, that it wasn't going to be something where it's going to be the story of young girls written and viewed through kind of a male eye? It had to be someone that could relate to it and have gone through that sort of journey, perhaps?
Yeah, I think I realised that while I was going through it. I'm not one of those people that feels that, you know, females need to tell female stories and males tell male stories. I think, you know, we all have stories to tell, and those stories are completely valid. You know, we have our perspective on the world, and I don't think in those kind of categories. But in saying that, I think there is something about this story that perhaps only a female can understand, that point of sexual awakening. You know, as being, you know, a certain age as a girl, I don't see a lot of it on screen, and I think there's a tenderness to that that you know, perhaps it does have to be told by a female. You know, you might be right, but it wasn't an active. You know, I
was thinking of it when I was watching sort of Booksmart recently, where it was like, these are people that know how to write, probably what teenage girls probably interact with it, and history's been filled with so many men going, I'm going to write what a teenage girl thinks like, and it's always seems to be quite wrong and stuff. So you were talking about how that, you know, you originally wanted someone else to perhaps write it and then direct it. What was sort of the length of time and process from, I want this to be adapted and to make it, to day one shooting? Yeah,
it was 2 years of developing and adapting and writing. And then it's been 2 years since we made the film, so it took a year, you know, the making, and then a year editing. So it's been pretty much 4 years.
I'd love to know, like, the actresses involved and the whole cast, really. I was unfamiliar with them and immediately want to see more of their work. How did you sort of come around these actors and get them involved? I think you've cast this so well.
I want to see more of their work too. I want to work with them more. They are amazing. And I think it was such a delight actually seeing it last night for the first time in a long time. And I had this strange sensation that their performances have evolved and matured, even though it's sort of impossible because it's the same film. There's something very alive about them. And it's a very quiet film on one hand, but it's saying so much. They're saying so much. The characters are saying so much without saying a thing. And I think that's really hard to achieve. I think the dynamic between them and the tension and what's not being said and what they're holding in, I just think they've just done a superb job.
You're watching it and you're always just reading between the lines. Each look feels like it has so much to say, even just when you get simple lines where it was like the ruler of the house, I forget her name, which was like, you know, when I was younger, I would maybe be sort of taken by something and I made a mistake, and that's just all it is. And then it sort of fills the rest of that film, just that one line of like, what could have happened? Where did it go? What's she kind of gone through? I just think that's excellent. And was that always sort of in the script that we're just going to keep it as toned down as possible? Or is it sort of that production process where it's like, we can cut that out, let's just strip it right down?
So I'm a big fan of things being stripped back. I as a viewer and an audience, don't like to be spoon-fed. I don't like to be told everything. And the art as well, looking at a painting, I love that feeling of not knowing everything, not knowing what's outside the frame, not knowing, what you sort of fill in the gaps. We're all storytellers. Every member of an audience is a storyteller. So giving them space to fill in, I think, is really what I like to do. And it can be frustrating, I think, for some people to watch films like that. Perhaps it's not, I do understand that there's a frustration, but I think ultimately this is a conversation with an audience, and I want them to be part of that conversation, and there's no way for them to be part of that conversation if you don't leave that space for them to fill it all in.
I love that. When we came out of our screening the other day, my friend just turned to me and went, do you think she was a vampire? And I was like, maybe, I don't think so. And it was fun to have that debate where you sort of think, going to these films, and it's always so clear-cut, vampire, the story side, whatever. With this, you're like, maybe, or maybe it's just sort of the townspeople at the time. And with it, creating that ambiguity, do you get, as you've seen, people have maybe been frustrated, but do you get a lot of feedback of like, so come on, tell me what was the answer? Or are people like, don't ever tell me a thing, just you've surprised me here?
What I love is people seem to be absolutely sure, but not everyone's sure of the same thing. So so far, I haven't experienced anyone kind of wanting me to tell them the answer after the film. They feel like they found it within the film, but that answer has been quite varied, and I love that. It's part of the point of the film is this analysis of the human condition and how we you're trying to understand what's underneath prejudice, really. And we take clues and we base our an assumption on a person or a race or a nationality, or and I think it's really important right now in the time that we're living is quite extraordinary, and borders are going up, nationalism is on the rise, and I think to really try and break that down and see what happens when someone assumes something and someone else jumps on board, and then it creates this kind of invisible demon and we're so sure that there's a threat or something. So I think it's very important that the film doesn't say it if it is or isn't, because I think that reflects something that's happening in the world right now.
Do you think when you're making something like that where you want it to be ambiguous, do you all have to sort of be on the same level as a sort of writer, director, like even the cast of like you are or aren't a vampire? Because I always think of something like American Psycho, how that was directed. They went like, right, we're going to direct it 3 different ways and we're going to mix it all up. Did you all have conversations about where you were all coming from, or did you sort of stick to a certain idea of like, we're just going to maybe play it down the middle, it could be either way, or where maybe the actors wanted to approach it from a certain way or knew another way? How did that all kind of come together?
It's a really good point, because an actor needs to know who they are. So I had a lot of private conversations with the actors. They needed to absolutely build their character and their entire backstory and every motivation, every thought, and especially when it's so quiet, there's nowhere to hide. If they didn't have the richness of the backstory, it wouldn't actually work. So there is absolutely a concrete notion behind every single one. And in fact, the Carmilla has 40 pages that are before the film starts. So her whole arrival to that house, she knows exactly where she was, before she got there, but nobody else does. And it's really, really important that no one else really knows what's happening, because the characters are trying to figure out at the same time the audience is trying to figure out, and it's so much about that kind of imagined they are imagining based on tiny clues, and so I think it's really important that nobody really knew each other's little story.
What was it like for you as a director when you were watching this cast together? Like, I know what it was like as a viewer, but what was it like for you behind the camera, just watching them play and bring these roles to life? Like, it's so impressive how well it all comes together. What's it like to behind the camera thinking, oh, we've got lightning here, we've got something really special?
It really is a great feeling when you've imagined something, and when that vision in your head, when it matches what's happening on the screen, it really is a magic moment. And I'm grateful to the team that actually kind of made that magic happen, because it's not just me, obviously. I think when you have such a sparse cast as well, that the energy and the chemistry between them has to be right, and that casting process. You can find individual fantastic actors. There's so much talent in this country, but it's what happens when you put them together, and I think there's a lot of magic in that, and it's the alchemy of crew as well. Production designer, cinematographer, 2 hugely talented people, but the wrong chemistry. It's all about that chemistry, really. So it's.
It looks beautiful as well. How did you sort of go around creating the look for this film? It's so good. How did that all kind of come together? Did you have that vision sort of from the start, or was it all brought together where you see this alchemy of great talent? How did that all kind of come together?
It is the alchemy of great talent, and choosing those people very, very carefully who it feels like they share a vision. I made a point, as I didn't see any Carmilla versions, I also stayed away from seeing period films and referencing sort of obvious period references and things like that. So we, the cinematographer, the production designer, and I spent a long time in developing the aesthetic and referencing paintings and ideas and thoughts, and had that discussion kind of really created that one look. And I think that's important. I think that collaborative creation is what you see on the screen. I think it's a very heartfelt, unified vision from everybody.
Yeah. You said the sort of film finished sort of shooting 2 years ago, and here we are now in Edinburgh. What's changed with the movie in sort of the past 2 years? Obviously, like the current climate we're in have made this film even more relevant, but what's maybe sort of changed in sort of the edit or the post-production from what you maybe originally envisioned, or has it always stayed relatively the same?
I think that it's the core of it has always been the same. I love the edit process, and I think it's a great opportunity. It's you writing it again with the pictures, so it will inevitably change. And we filmed a lot more than what's in there too. There's things that are hard to let go of when you're in the edit. And I think 2 years on, it's easier to see the film. Absolutely, that's the film it had to be. So yeah, there is that process, and you just have to treat that as a new process.
Does sort of that editing come with that kind of scaling it back, like less is more, less is more? Is there ever moments you think, oh, that was maybe just a bit too on the nose, or oh, that could have played our hand a certain way? Do things like that come out, or is it just maybe the odd beat here and there?
No, things do come out because you think it's not necessary. You suddenly realise maybe you've overwritten the script. Although watching it last night, I realised I'm not giving a kind of, I hope there's now enough there, but you do feel like you don't want to give it all away, and it is important to hold enough back and give enough at the same time. It's a balance.
What's been the sort of the reactions now that it's out in the world and people are seeing it at festivals and so on? What have people kind of, whether they're fans of the book, miniseries, whatever, kind of coming to you with, or are a lot of people discovering this for the first time and are maybe going to go off and check out these things in the future?
I think there will be people, because the film has the same name as the book. I think there'll inevitably be people coming to it with that, knowing it. I've encountered a lot of people who had no idea what they were walking in. I love festivals for that, because you don't necessarily know anything. And I think there will be some people who expect a horror, and it's not a horror. It's definitely the psychology behind some horrific human behavior, but it's definitely not a horror. So I think it's expectation management as well. It's interesting seeing what people come in expecting and what they go out thinking and feeling. I know.
As I say, I was so surprised because I remember going in to go, right, I'll add it onto Letterboxd, type in Carmilla miniseries, Carmilla movies. Like, oh, there's a lot of movies called Carmilla. I wonder if people will get. And then you sort of look at it and go, oh, there is this whole kind of world and stuff. It's completely passed me by. So what's the next journey for the film now that's showing at festivals? Where's it kind of heading to next film-wise?
Well, the festival circuit is definitely where it's at the moment. The ideal is that it gets into cinemas and for the general public, and that more people see it. I guess it's out of my control. There is a distributor that will be doing that job, but I think it just depends if there's an appetite for it. Was it Vertical or something like that, or I've got it for the UK? Is it Altitude? Yeah.
So like Altitude have such a, they're sort of similar to those sort of like A24s and Annapurna. When you see that, I remember going in and you sometimes see these names at the start and you think, never heard of that. Yeah, this is going to be something. When you see that, you think, oh, it immediately catches the eyes and stuff. With Altitude, with
it's a brand.
They've got that cult kind of following. What's it like when someone like that comes along and go, we're going to take on your film, and it's that kind of name where you think, I'm going to be in the pantheon of a lot of other films that they've released that have that kind of built-in kind of quality. Yeah,
I guess there is that. It's very flattering, of course, and I think Altitude has great taste. I mean, not apart from Carmilla, obviously. I've always liked what they choose and what they do with films. I think they do a great job of taking something that is sort of feels quite kind of independent and pushing it across the line. And it is great, but I think at the same time you can't hide behind a brand. You have to deliver, and you have to stay true to what you set out to do. So I guess you just hope that those two things match, and that they like the film as much as. Absolutely.
And finally, what's kind of next for yourself now that is sort of the journey still continuing with this film for a while, or are you already sort of working on anything kind of new that you're hoping to bring?
Yeah, I've written another script that I would love to make. It's a long game. The industry is it's not easy, and I don't know if I make films that are easy to get made. So I think I'm quite realistic about that. I just kind of keep trying, keep writing, keep hoping to make the next one, really.
What is it about you see that your work is maybe hard to sell? What is it that's maybe hard? What is that Emily Harris brand that's like, oh, that could be tricky? What is it that maybe we need to come to change with?
Yeah, it's a strange thing for me to say. I think I'm probably saying it because I've heard other people say it to me. It's probably not a great way to look at myself. I come from a fine art background, and
that explains the brilliant look of the film. Now I can see that. That's informed my viewing a little bit as well.
Okay, I went to Glasgow School of Art.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so painting and that idea of the game with the frame, and what you don't see, and all of that stuff, and it's really important to me that there's that it's visual storytelling, and that's how I come at making a film. So that it's a different way of communicating, and I think finding the platform for that to make sense isn't always easy, because there are many different reasons why you go to the cinema, and so it's just sort of, I suppose, the right film for the right audience in the right space, which obviously
absolutely
coming to Edinburgh
I know, I'm looking forward to your next film. I've got you down as one of my filmmakers to keep track of, and I wish you all the best with sort of whatever you do next, and you're venturing into the Carmilla web series and other TV shows and stuff like that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
It's really kind. Thanks.
Writer-director Josephine Mackerras, the writer-director of Alice, joins me next. After discovering that her husband's addiction to escorts has left their family penniless, Alice finds herself drawn into the world of high-end prostitution as a means of caring for herself and her child. Yeah, I just wanted to ask you firstly, what came first for you sort of with this film? Was it sort of the character of Alice, or was it the story that you wanted to tell?
Definitely not the character. Yeah, I mean, I had a really hard time with that character. But the story. And taking sort of a woman who's sort of done everything she should. She's followed all the rules, and, what happens when, the rug's pulled out from under her feet, and, so it's sort of like it was hard for me to get a hold of Alice's character because it's so far from me. Do you know what I mean? So, but how do you go about that when you've got a character that is so far removed from what your reality? You're a filmmaker, you're not sort of involved in that industry. How do you go around sort of getting yourself into that mindset and understanding the industry that you're going to be writing about? I mean, I really had a very strong grip on Francois and on Lisa. Like, I knew those characters inside out, and it's very interesting because even in the casting, that was very easy. It was like almost sort of miraculous. I bumped into them at a party, and I just, you have that 100% feeling. Whereas with the character of Alice, I sort of got it. I couldn't, I had a hard time finding the actor, and then. But I guess once it's interesting because it's very interesting when the writing is really clear. Then often it's quite magical. The process of filmmaking, it sort of comes together without. It's interesting. It's sort of very mysterious. Industry. I talk to women who'd worked in the industry, and it's quite hard to get hold of women who are. The high echelons, because often they have careers and they don't want to be exposed, so they're very paranoid, whereas the lower you go down, I'm talking in terms of money. The cheaper it goes, often the more they're identified with that métier, that profession, and they don't mind, and they like, and also they'd like to expose it, because often there's a lot of problems. So that's one for the research. That's nothing to do with the character of Alice. Then I think what had to happen with Alice is that in the story structure she had to be pushed so far that she could have an identity shift. And she has her perfect marriage crumbles, her husband turns out to be someone she doesn't even know, her whole life turns out to be a lie, her mother kicks her in the guts and sort of abandons her, everything. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like she gets to a point where you completely identify with literally an identity shift, where she's like, this is, I'm going to fight back, and she decides to fight back,
It's so rare that you get stories about sort of characters sort of Alice's age where that, as you say, the rug's pulled out from underneath them, and life completely changes and things fall away. Most of these are sort of based at younger characters. Was that always something you had in mind when looking for Alice, that it had to be someone that was that bit older?
Well, she had to have had a child.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and because she comes from sort of a, decent family and everything, she has so for me, she has her child around sort of, late 20s, mid-20s, that sort of usually, normally if everything went well, she'd have a second child on the way, you know what I mean? So it's just, that's how I decided the age,
Did you feel a sort of pressure when writing the script to make sure it reflected sort of what people were feeling sort of within those industries, or did the script sort of evolve around what you were hearing from them, or was there sort of a script and then it was maybe tweaked based on what you were hearing from the individuals involved?
The idea of the whole politics around the prostitution was first inspired with the Elliot Spitzer story. I think it was in 2008, a long time ago, in New York. He was the mayor of New York, and he was caught using public money for high-end escorts. And what was interesting is one of those outed, because there were two girls in particular who were outed as being escorts, and one of them was a professor, or she was an English teacher, and she lost her job, and he had to resign, and he lost everything. But then a couple of years later, he kind of won the popular vote and got it all back, and I mean, he'd even used public money, so he was literally dishonest. Whereas she, the English professor, she loved her job, and nobody would rehire her, and she was even 5 years later, and so and because she's a writer. That I could read about her, and so that was interesting. I thought that was that sort of hypocrisy. So I guess I wanted to base it on those kind of high-end, women that choose to do it, that have another career, they're doing it to pay a mortgage or to whatever, and just to get, because it is a sort of, I mean, it's a lot of money. They can earn a lot of money. It's not necessarily open to men. And so it's also talking a little bit about, because, if Alice was, fat and had a hairy chin, this option wouldn't be available to her. So there is a sort of it's a kind of a privileged position to be able to make kind of quick money as well, which is... Definitely.
What I really like to sort of, it feels like it's come at a nice time. There's been so much debate recently about sex work and the individuals that sort of involved. And what I liked about the story was that it never felt judgmental of those that were in it at all, and that the judgment rightly fell on those that exploit the women, those who drive the women to things like that. When you were sort of writing that, has there been people that have met with this story and went, this has changed how I've viewed sex work, or how I've viewed those that have perhaps involved in that sort of escorts industries and so on?
I mean, there've been a lot of people who come back and said, I'm still talking about this film, which is great. I mean, there's so much in it, that because obviously sex work is only one part, and it's sort of a dramatic motor to expose other things. I hope even somebody who doesn't really care about the politics around prostitution is going to enjoy this film, because it's a very sort of small part, and it's used as it's used as a dramatic motive for other issues, which are what the film are about. So I guess I mean, it's interesting because there's been a couple of bad, most of the reviews have been really great. There's been a couple of bad ones, which always that upsets me, but there was one the other day, and it was so hateful, but it was interesting how it didn't affect me at all, because the last line was, glamorizing a profession that kills the soul or something like that. It was she's got a that's your, you know what I mean? So it was so obviously not about the film, but about her issues. So I guess I was expecting that more. I've read one and I'm okay, there you go. I mean, it
seems that it's been getting lots of positive reviews. The reviews from Edinburgh have been really positive, and I'd heard about how well it done out in South by Southwest. How have audiences sort of been reacting to on this kind of journey for the film?
Well, I mean, every time I've been in the cinema it'll be interesting, because this will be the first tonight, will be the first English audience. But I mean, it's been amazing. I mean, it's really it's been so well received, and I think it's because it also doesn't judge men. I mean, it's both. Do you know what I mean? It really is trying to get a bigger perspective on these complicated issues.
What I like is that relationship between Alice and Lisa. As a viewer watching that thing, even the little scene where they have the little dance and stuff. What was it like for you watching it unfold sort of in front of you? This pair of actors really creating something really fantastic in front of you? Is it like, oh my god, my script's coming alive, or have we got something really special?
I was, to be really honest, I was anxiety filled from beginning to end. I because once I finally got the shoot over, which was a real, it like, I was like completely so exhausted. It was so much hard work because it was really good at the beginning. It was like 35 of us, and but as obviously if you're not paying people, then they disappear, and they, and so you're at the end, you're sort of like there's 3 of us, and then working out if it was going to work. Because I'm really mixing a lot of comedy and drama, and I'm mixing genres, and I wasn't sure, is that going to work, and it didn't at the beginning. There was a lot of the editing was really, you had to really identify with Alice. Like if you sort of don't fall in love a bit with Alice, the movie doesn't work. So it was all about really bringing up her performance and making sure every microsecond was complete, and we had a lot of rushes. So that was just a lot of work, and I guess that's when it came together, when I knew the story worked. So do you know what I mean? I know they're all really great actors, and I knew that, others, but it was really, for me, the whole thing, could the whole thing work? So, it took a lot of risk. I took a lot of risks.
What was that sort of edit process like for you? And so I think this is your first feature as well. I was just talking about the anxiety of it all. Was it now that there's a bit of time that's passed between it, do you look on it back as a positive experience, or is it still filling you with anxiety thinking back to those trying times?
Yeah, I look back and I think, oh my god, I aged 10 years doing this film because there was the financial thing. Like I was carrying it financially, and I was very alone in post production. And then I had an editor, but she worked really hard. But then obviously, you work for free, you can't keep going. And I think she was upset because I'm such a control freak. I really have to get into it. But I really believed that was the only way the film was going to work, to really. Because it wasn't like, you choose a take. No. You might have 18 different takes in one scene, So, anyway, so I look back and I just think, oh my God, I'll never make a film like that again. And hopefully I won't have to. Because that's why you do all this, isn't it? Because it's such a difficult industry, and to get noticed, you have to prove yourself. Everyone wants proof. So,
do you think there's more that can be done to support female directors like yourself? That we see the statistics of like, I would put it's like 9% kind of women and stuff. Is there more that we can be done to? You're talking about money, for example, more money that we can give, because you've created a great film. It's getting good reviews. It's doing popular in festivals. How can we make sure that movies like Alice come from the mind of someone like yourself and get to the cinema screens and take away the anxiety of not being able to pay people or the stress of that? What can the industry do so that films like Alice get out there and don't just be a pipe dream?
Well, it's. Since Alice, I think that's opened a lot of doors for me. Hopefully, and so doing it yourself, like just proving yourself, which I sort of feel it's hard because I guess. I guess it's difficult for. I think write a great script. That's how I got everyone to work for free. And if I wasn't so patient, I probably could have got a producer and probably could have got money because it was a good script. And I did have like some kind of name actors that were interested, but I just couldn't. I was too impatient, and so I went with a no-name actress, and I went with and so that's sort of really, in terms of commercially releasing the film, that's it sort of ended up kind of more like a demo for me rather than something you make money from. Because you do need name actors nowadays to make money. So I guess to answer your question, I would say focus on the writing, write a good script. I don't know what to do with the industry. It's too big a, oh my God, because I feel like it has to be, you tend to hire people who are like yourself, and I think we've heard all of these things, of course, and it's true, it's all true. So, but all I know is how I feel like if I'd been more patient, I could have got a name actor for Alice. If I had, and I got all the people to work for free because they like the script. I just feel like the writing. I feel like the real power is in good writing, actually.
It must be so rewarding for you, the scripts out there and people going, I'd work with that for free. Talent, they're always looking for that money to do something like that. That must be so rewarding for you.
Oh, well, it's so tough, such a tough industry to, get it to, being an actor, oh my God.
And what's been the most positive experience for you since the film's been started to get out? What's been the moment that's made you happy?
South by.
That must have been an incredible experience.
Thank God, I say it almost every day, thank God for South by, because this film could have so easily disappeared into nothing, but South by brought attention to it. And so, there's a chain reaction, so.
And what's that sort of chain reaction led to for the film, for getting out there?
Well, I was still in delivery nightmare. I almost feel like it might have been better just to not commercially release the film because I'd like to be focusing on other things.
Yeah.
I've had enough, but it just keeps going. It's a delivery, the delivery nightmare. And Elliot Grove has come in since the South by win. Elliot Grove, the founder of Rain Dance, he's now saving my life in deliveries.
That's amazing.
And I don't think it would be commercially released without him, because there's the financial thing, but then there's also just like, enough already. I have to do all these things. I don't even know what they are.
Yeah. And what's going to be next for yourself? Is it still going to be continuing on with Alice for a little while, or is it now that you're ready for that clean break to dive into something brand new?
I'm really looking forward to going to Australia with it, because I'm Australian and the film is Australian. And then after that, I still feel like I sort of need to recover from Alice, from making it, because it was grueling. It was just, and for so long. And also, I'm also living alone with a small child. So, I never had an evening or a weekend off. So I guess my I want to find the project that I know. I want to get back into writing and directing and finding my next project. I have another. It's all about the next project. So.
I'm really excited for whatever that form takes and stuff like that. As you say, you've made a demo, but I think you've released something that's better than any kind of demo and stuff. You've put something out there that's fantastic, and the reviews reflect that. And I think people seem to be from folk I've spoken to have really connected with it and really enjoyed it. So I'm excited for you tonight to see it with a British audience.
Yeah, me too. Really
thank you very much.
Yeah,
Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Up next, I'm joined by writer-director Matt Roberts, Ciaran Dowd, Sarah Ovens and Owen Roberts to discuss Masters of Love. In a fraught lead-up to Emmy and Samantha's wedding, Josh, Emmy's brother, finds himself dumped and homeless and sleeping on his best mate Niall's floor. As Niall tries to coax Josh out of his dark place and back into the dating world, they both miss the fact that Emmy is having second thoughts about her marriage. As the wedding draws closer, Emmy gets more confused. Niall tries to sleep his way out of loneliness, and Joss finds solace in an unexpected and destructive place. So, just want to say congratulations on bringing your film to the festival.
Thank you.
How did this sort of story come about? I was chatting with the guys earlier on, and it sounds like you've got a bit of a theatre troupe, really, of, kind of you all work together, write together, these things. How did that all come around? What made... I heard that you did a short movie that is almost unrecognisable to what's finally come out.
Yeah.
What was the process like for bringing this film together?
Yeah, from a process perspective, we have worked together for years. The very kind of we made a short film together called Will Sampson, but that was like 2011, which was a real kind of joy to me. That was my first short film as a writer director, and then we've made a bunch of stuff in between actually. But I was kind of interested in knowing what those characters would be like now in their 30s. So although they're not the same characters exactly, that was kind of the start of that process. So then I wrote the feature, but really quickly. The first draft, it was pretty bad, but I wrote it really quickly. It just kind of came very easily. Because I guess it's a world I inhabit, we all inhabit, and then I'm very lucky to have very talented friends and very generous friends who then did lots of read-throughs with me. We did about kind of 3 separate read-throughs. So we'd do a read-through, we'd talk about what everyone thought about the film, and more specifically what they thought about their characters, if they had any thoughts on it, and obviously I'm always trying to keep an eye on the story as a whole, but it's great to get the perspective of the actors on specifically what they think about the journey of their character, and then after each read-through kind of go away for a month or 6 weeks and rewrite and then come back and do another read-through.
It must be quite an exciting opportunity for you as an actor, Ciaran, to create a character like Niall where you get this input. What was the character of Niall like at the beginning, and then once you sort of worked together, what did he sort of come out as at the end that we see in this film?
He's a sort of a man-child and a bit of a player, a bit of a philanderer, and that all of that stuff was always in there. And I think he's sort of struggling a lot with to sort of hold down any relationship or decide that any one thing is good enough, and he gets into this quite toxic cycle with his relationships and with himself and with his career as a wannabe stand-up comedian, and all of that is quite difficult, and all of that was there. It was some of it though was, I think one of the things that myself and Matt talked about was how do you make a guy who has all these negative qualities appealing to an audience, and that they still find him a little bit charming and still want to go on any sort of journey with him, even though he's essentially the guy you would want to avoid in any bar.
And does that come as a pressure, an actor like, I've got to deliver on that, I've got to look the part, be the part, to be that person that's going to, I could believe that guy is going to take these people home?
Well, I mean, I think that is one of the things I find the most ridiculous watching it, and I don't believe, I don't look at that guy and go, or myself, and go, yeah, I get why these women would be interested in. Obviously not, but I mean, the truth is,
it's a good job to take.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are different things. I think in the real world, I'm perfectly lovely and and absolutely charming, and any woman will be lucky to have me. But in the film, I think it's a different thing looking at yourself on screen. I mean, I've got a very fat head. There's scenes where Matt's made me get naked. My big, I mean, more than white, transparent body, hairy, pasty, chubby. It's
what the cinema screen was designed for.
I mean, seeing it on that big screen yesterday was genuinely harrowing.
Yeah. It's like one of those ones when you see a horror movie for the second time or something like that. You're in the back going, oh my god, this scene's going to come up, and you're like, I'm going to pick out that person and see how they react.
Yeah. So the idea that some of these women, because I mean some of the actors that we got them because we liked them.
Putting yourself down. Ciaran.
We got them because we liked them, but they happened to be stunningly attractive and beautiful, and the idea that they would like me, mad.
But what was it like for yourself, Matt? Like, this film was shot on like a micro budget.
Yeah.
What are the exciting parts and also the terrifying moments of putting together a film like that on such a tight budget?
Yeah, it's all kind of terrifying, but it was. I absolutely loved it. Actually, I really did. It was a brilliant experience. It was such a nice set and so collaborative, and I think sometimes that actually comes from the kind of micro budget shoots that everyone has a kind of sense of ownership of the film, and everyone really pitches in. You know, we weren't a massive crew, and we weren't a massive cast, and everybody really kind of feels ownership of the film. And there was a very short window which we could film because I'd written it for these guys. Ciaran and Owen were going to Edinburgh, Sarah was just coming back from the play, and there was and then budget restraints as well dictated a kind of very, very short period of time, which was a 2-week period with a day off, so a 13-day shoot, and there was actually quite a few locations as well, so it was kind of crazy and non-stop for those 2 weeks, but I feel like that was okay. You know, I could. It was fine to not have any sleep for 2 weeks because it was great work. You know, being able to work on it.
What's it like, sort of, when you get to the end of that 13 days? It's all in the can, and you know, can you go back and add more to it, or is it a case like this is what we've got, and now we need to sort of start moulding it in the edit? What was that editing process like for you with all this great material?
Yeah, well, it was actually quite easy because the way we shot it was I made a decision with Tom, my DOP, who's an amazing DOP, that we were going to shoot each scene in a single shot, which is kind of unusual for comedy. I don't think you really see that very often. Just kind of holding on those. At the Q&A yesterday, we had a lot of questions around was it improvised, because I think some of it can feel improvised because you get all the ums and ahs, and there's a lot of space in between where you'd probably be cutting to close-ups, etc. So putting it together was a case of picking the best takes, but then once it was then assembled as it should have been, after that there was quite a few changes actually. Structurally I moved stuff around, and it changed the tone and story quite a lot, moving something 6 scenes earlier, for example, and then we did do a couple of reshoots as well, just again, which very lucky that the guys were all up for doing reshoots, and we had time to do it as well. And I really enjoyed the editing process actually, because there was no hard deadline, because there is an exec producer on it, but we had no hard deadlines for distribution or anything like that. So I had the ability to kind of edit and then just leave it for a month and then come back to it and look at it again, which I think most people don't have the luxury of that time. So yeah, it was enjoyable.
And finally, for both of you, is that, are we now sort of seeing a generation where I'm in my 30s, where we're seeing actors, writers, directors that are making films that represent their experiences in love and romance, that we saw all these movies in the 90s, 80s, etc., where it's like everyone kind of hooks up at the end, it's all happily ever after, off they go and have kids and stuff, whereas the reality is characters like yourself, they go home with someone, could be someone else the other day, it's dating apps, all these sorts of things. Are we now going to see that sort of generation that have grown up as filmmakers now producing films like yours that reflect their lives?
It was exactly what you've described as like kind of what I wanted to explore, the truth of what it's like to be in relationships nowadays, and to be in your 30s and be surrounded by this kind of infinite choice. I've been in my relationship with my wife, we've been together for 15 years, so it's past me, it just didn't exist when I was dating, and now that the fact you have just got this kind of infinite choice on your phone, how do you make a choice and feel satisfied with that choice? And then that spills over just into life as well in general. I think when you're looking at other people's best lives on social media, how do you kind of stay satisfied with your own and your own job, that was the kind of truth that I was feeling in our friendship groups around our 30s.
And I think as well there's a sort of a messiness to the relationships. It's not all clean and nice and Hollywood happy endings. It's that life is weird and hard and awkward, and moments are tough, and you just have to deal with how bad things are. And I think there's a lot of that truth in Matt's film, and I think there will be in the films that filmmakers are making now, because I don't think people are as restricted to, if you're making your own film, you can just say exactly what you want. There's less pressure to have very formulaic, and it ends like this, and that's all lovely.
Absolutely. Well, I'll have to end it on that one, but thank you very much, and I wish you all the very best with the film. So thank you. Cheers. Up next we hear from Sarah Ovens and Owen Roberts on the film. Yeah, so thanks very much for talking with me.
Pleasure.
I just wanted to know, sort of, firstly, what attracted you to the project? What stage did you guys get involved in this and first hear about Masters of Love?
You guys were, earlier. Oh, actually, so was I, apparently.
Very, very early on.
Yeah.
I think we did a short film with Matt years and years ago, which originally the script for this was sort of based on. It's now utterly unrecognisable from that original project. But Matt sort of wrote the script with us in mind, and sort of asked us if we wanted to be a part of it. And obviously, having worked with Matt many times in the past, we knew that we wanted to do it, because he is absolute joy to work with. So it was kind of quite an organic process, really. He had the idea, he asked us if we were interested, we said yes. He then wrote a first script, we read that first script, then he adapted it, then we read another script, and there's sort of like lots of feedback and conversations going on during that time. So essentially what happened was Matt said, do you want to do a film? And we said yes, before even really knowing what it was going to be. But I think that when you find people that you really like working with, then you just say yes.
Yeah.
Had you been involved in the short film years ago?
Yes, and I didn't realise it was based on that short film.
That's so unrecognisable now. You're like,
exactly.
I don't recall that film.
No, but similarly, I love working with Matt and these guys and the shorts and stuff that we've done. And then the script sort of just got better and better, and I think because he had us in mind, it really felt like you could kind of live it and breathe it, and it felt very easy to come off the page for that reason. So good writing and having a laugh.
Because obviously you guys got involved at an early stage, do you get much input on sort of the characters, where what you saw at the start, did that become almost unrecognisable when you're like, oh, I think, based on my experiences of a terrible day, this is maybe how I would approach it, or did it sort of stick relatively to what you kind of originally saw?
There was a few changes. I remember having a conversation with Matt after the read-through we did
at his office, and there was like a couple of moments where I was like, the arc of the character, I was kind of felt instinctive to go in a slightly different direction. It was really open towards that, and your character's arc changed a lot from
it really
from
did.
that script to the next one.
That felt very collaborative. I keep saying the word collaborative, but it was truly collaborative. And
I think that's the way that Matt works. He's very unprecious about his writing, so he will take a script to a read through and then be completely open to any suggestion. Like, even if we were to suggest, completely throwing a character out to start again, he's open to listening to that and open to getting feedback from the actors, which is great, because you do feel like often you get a script and then you go away and do the character work, and then you come back and you're like, oh, this doesn't feel right, but you have no control over changing that script, whereas in this process you can sort of go, Matt, I'm not sure about that, what do you think?
It's a conversation.
Sounds like you're a bit of your own theatre troupe, really, and stuff like that, gone followed through the shorts, built up that relationships together.
It was quite a theatrical sort of way of doing it as well, because we did these long shots. Each scene was pretty much one shot, so there was like a freedom, and it was kind of akin to rehearsing a play rather than it being chopped up and
like the one scene that springs to mind is the wine tasting scene, where there's 4 of us in the scene. It's quite a long scene and it is just one shot, and so it's like doing a play. It's like you can't go, oh, I fluffed that line, can we we'll cut back into that at a later date. It's like it has to all be
we go again
good.
From the top.
We have to go again from the top of the whole scene. Well, I think I walked off the camera and fell over at one point. Like, you just ruin like this big long take and you've got to start again. But what is really nice about that as an actor is that you don't get, everyone's present in every scene. Sometimes when you're filming you might have you have your close-up and the person opposite you is, with the best will in the world, they are not giving it their 100%, or you've got like a camera in your face and you can't see them. Whereas with this, every single scene, you're very connected to the other performers, and that is a really exciting way of working. It's difficult because you have to get it right. But then I think you get a lot of the imperfections in delivery. You get the sort of the slight pregnant pauses while someone's trying to think of what to say, or the stutters or ums and ahs,
and therefore hopefully becomes a bit realer for that as well. It's rough and ready, as is life. You don't always say the perfect sentence, as I have discovered today.
And did you get to improvise much, or was it very much the script as God, or could you sort of bring yourself, like you're doing these long takes and it's like, I feel like a line here would just be that appropriate, reacting to someone falling off out of the set and stuff. You think, oh, I know what to say here, or was it, I've got to stick?
I don't think any of us felt trapped by the script, and so couldn't. I didn't ad-lib much, I think, the odd thing here and there, but I feel like you guys maybe brought in a little bit. I mean, we were fairly, because we'd sort of gone through a process with the script up to that point, we were fairly faithful to the script. But as you say, there are bits where, again, stuck with the wine scene. At the end, Ciaran goes like, you're out of order or whatever. Chips in the odd little line here or there, which you do feel that you could do, because you feel like there's a common understanding in the room of what the scene is and what's going on. And if you do chip in with something, it's, as long as it's in keeping with the scene, it's kind of fine. But to be honest, I think I have worked with Matt before with a lot more improvisation on a short that we did, which was really fun, but we had a lot more time for that. I think because this film was such a big thing to get done in a short amount of time, there was very much a case of like, you do need to get this right, so there wasn't necessarily time to go off on an improvisation.
How much sort of time did you have with making this film to get it done? 13 days. So do you think that's where sort of that rehearsal period, that getting it all prepared, kind of all comes off, that you have got that working relationship? So you're just going to go 13 days, easy done, or is it 13 days, oh my god, what are we going to do?
Oh, it was shit scary, for sure. But I think you're right. I think that you take for granted the run-up that we had of all the redrafting and the read-throughs and stuff. That definitely helped and went towards it. But
yeah, you arrive on set ready and knowing what's going on, which does make it easier to go that fast. But I mean, obviously it would have been easier to have more time. Because it is, it very quick. It'd sort of finish one thing and then be getting in a cab to drive to a different part of London to do something else, and then you're filming outside sometimes, so you just be like, well, I hope the weather's nice today because we haven't got another day to do this. So if it is raining, this scene will happen in the rain. And
the film certainly has a lot to say about I'm someone in my 30s as well, early 30s, that has a lot to say about how relationships are changing, sex, dating apps, all these sorts of things. Do you feel with films like this, it's that generation of people that have grown up and it's like, by these sorts of age, well, I'm going to be married, have kids, that everything would be more settled, that we're now seeing filmmakers and talent like yourselves that have gone, well, our generation's different and we're going to make films that reflect our experience as opposed to these traditional rom-coms where it's like everything all lives happily ever afterwards, when the reality is very different for all of us.
I think it's interesting because Matt sometimes uses the genre rom-com to talk about this film, but it is very much not a traditional romantic storyline in that way, because I think people are less, or maybe trapped is the wrong word, by the traditions of you get to this age, you're supposed to be married then, have kids then. And I certainly know loads of my friends around their 30s have just been like, oh, I don't know what's going on. Should I be getting married? Should I not? We sort of talked about when the idea of social media and apps and dating apps and vlogs and all this sort of thing in the film, that it is that idea that nowadays people have got so much more much greater access to the alternatives of what they could be doing. There's always somebody who's vlogging about their great life or their healthy lifestyle, or there's somebody posting about their amazing wedding or their kids, and you're sort of bombarded with information of other people are doing this and they're really happy. Should I be doing that? But then equally you're as guilty of doing that, projecting your life through a rose-tinted filter, and we're all just basically lying about how great our lives are and making each other feel inadequate because of that. And I think the film sort of touches on that thing of, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, I should have it sorted by now, I should know what I'm doing with my life. And the reality, we had somebody in the Q&A yesterday said, who was I think in her 60s, said, I still feel like that now, I should know what I'm doing, but I don't. And I think that's sort of a big theme of the film.
I agree.
And it sounds like that, hey, you guys you've got your feature film here at a festival, you're doing an interview in front of the castle, it sounds like your acting lives are pretty well together, so what can we maybe keep an eye out for in the future from you guys? Are you all going to get the theatre troupe back together for something else?
I'd love to, that would be great. I think Matt has said that he's writing he's got a few things on his belt, but I don't know what immediately.
I think it's so as well as obviously doing the work that we do, myself and Ciaran are both comedians. Awesome. So he's working on a new show that's actually coming to Edinburgh next month. Awesome. I'm working on a new show for the coming sort of autumn and stuff like that. So that's sort of the immediate project. But I think we're all really keen to keep working with Matt, to keep making films, to move on to the next project, and keep working in this way. I think it's a really refreshing way of making film. And I've had more fun making this film and the films I make with Matt than I have on any other set, which is often you turn up, you've got your lines, you sit in your trailer, you come and you meet everyone for the first time that day, you go out and do the scene or whatever, and it doesn't feel as collaborative and as engaged.
It involves a lot of trust as well, I think, from both sides, and so that obviously helps when you know each other. But I did another film actually recently that had a similar, it was improvised, so it was different, but similar kind of collaborative feel, where actually it was kind of like a theatre troupe or whatever. Everyone is there, there's no hierarchy, everyone is kind of just like putting their own take on it all, and the more of that way of working, for me personally, I think I'm happy to just carry on doing that.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to seeing your future shows and films and this troupe back together again. And the fact that you've got 60-year-olds and young people all talking about your film, something that's definitely connecting with the audiences. So thank you very much, and I wish you all the best.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next is writer-director Alexandra McGuinness, followed by producer Anna O'Malley to discuss She's Missing. When her best friend goes missing at a rodeo, Heidi goes on search across the desert, digging up secrets and encountering the violence of life on the road. I caught the film a few days ago at the Edinburgh Film Festival, and it absolutely hit the spot for me. I absolutely loved it. I just want to know, what was the origin of this film for you, and how did you come to write this story?
So I suppose the film originally began in 2013. When I moved to America, I started writing it. And I had been driving around the Californian desert a lot, and there was this one town that I visited that had all of these missing posters at a gas station and kind of all over the town of different women. But there was one story in particular that I went back and I did some research on, and there was this girl who'd been missing for 12 years, and she's beautiful, so I think her picture kind of stood out. And her mother, she hadn't really had any help from the authorities, but her mother was still looking for her, and was using Facebook groups and that kind of thing. So, I mean, that was the sort of germ for the story. I mean, there's nothing in there that would be recognizable as this woman's story, but there was that. And then, so originally, we actually started shooting the movie with a different cast in 2013, and then it took again until 2017 to restart the movie after it fell apart the first time. And I'm just so glad that we have this cast, and that it did fall apart the first time, because I think it works much better.
When you were writing the script, was it always sort of your intention that I'm going to direct this, or was it I'm going to write this story and see where it takes me?
No, I mean, it was always my intention to direct it. I thought initially, because it had been a few years since my first film, that we would make it really kind of rough and ready and cheap, and then over the years it kind of became more of a complicated story, and we attracted like a regular kind of budget and more known actors to the project.
What I found fascinating when I watched the film was when your name came up at the end, and obviously your producing partner and this Anna O'Malley. That, what do you think sort of the Irish experience, and sort of this is a very American story, location sort of almost a Western perhaps at heart. What do you kind of think as an outsider you guys are able to bring to a story and a landscape like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is set in this in this kind of American landscape that was very alien to me, and I think there's a history of these of movies made in America by European directors. Films like Paris, Texas, or Zabriskie Point, or that kind of use the landscape in a way that it's something kind of otherworldly. And I think, the world is not, that it's set in is not, it's not a normal world in a way. And so I think it kind of helps having this outside perspective, I suppose.
You've got such a great cast here. Lucy Fry was someone I'd never even heard of until sort of I watched this film, and I said it to Anna earlier, I want to see more of her and everything now. What was it like sort of putting together this great cast? And you mentioned sort of that the film had fallen apart, the first sort of iteration a few years earlier. When you were sort of putting it together, you've got this cast, filming's underway, was it ever in your mind you're thinking, oh, this could fall apart again, or was it a totally different experience this time?
No, I mean, I think you're always, when you're making a movie, you're kind of always a stressful experience, and you think that it can fall apart at any point. I mean, I think this was Anna's first film as a producer, and there was, we went over budget and that kind of thing, and had to find more funds, and but putting the cast together, the cast was one of the easier things, I suppose. We had a great casting director in Los Angeles, Ciaran, and and I think people were interested in the story, and especially the women. They wanted to play those parts. So, with Josh Hartnett, we didn't know really if he was going to show up until a couple of days beforehand. But with Lucy, and I'm so glad that we found Asa, who's now having this real moment. And Lucy originally auditioned for the part that Asa plays in the movie, that was, the central character Heidi was much harder to cast, because you need someone who's just radiates a kind of a goodness, and you need to care about her, even though some of her decisions are maybe questionable, and you need to follow her.
What was the experience like for you shooting this a feature film, in the heartland sort of America? What was it like for you as a director? Was there moments where you ever just sort of thought, oh my God, it's we're finally making this. This is an idea I've had for years, and now it's kind of unfolding in front of me. What was that kind of experience like for you?
Yeah, I think when we were actually making it, it just, it was great to shoot in New Mexico. We had originally started filming it in California, and it was easier to find these kind of desert open locations in New Mexico. I think it was a tough shoot. It was the middle of summer. It was very hot, but it felt right when we were making it. And then we went and did all the posts in Ireland, where I'm from, which was then opposite over the winter.
What's been the reaction now the film's kind of getting out there? It's going to be sort of dropping on July 1st in just a few days in the UK, and then later in the year in America. What's been the reactions from people that you've spoken to, or people that have seen the film so far, and how has it been an exciting kind of process for you to now get it out there?
Yeah, we've shown it at a couple of festivals. We were at Newport Beach in America, and we had a premiere in Dublin before Edinburgh. But I was upset not to go to Edinburgh, but it coincided with me having my baby, so I couldn't go. But I heard one of the actresses who I collaborate with a lot, Antonia Campbell-Hughes, and she introduced the film at the festival screening, and she said it was a full house. And I've heard some comments from other people who saw it, and it's great to have people see it, and the film to kind of take on another life through the eyes of an audience. I'm excited that it's going on demand in the UK, and then it has a theatrical release in the US coming up in the fall. So it'll be interesting to see how the different audiences respond to it.
Absolutely. I'm sure they'll probably be as enthusiastic as I was about this. I can't wait to see it again in the future, and I've got a feeling I'd love to watch this as a sort of double bill with something like Under the Silver Lake. I think they both do something so different and tell such a great story. So yeah, I wish you all the best with this film, and thank you very much for talking with me about it.
Thank you. I haven't seen Under the Silver Lake, but I live in Silver Lake. So.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, it's one of these ones. It's a very interesting movie. Both involve cults and looking for missing kind of people. It's one of these ones that I think they make a fantastic double bill. But it was a real treat.
Mitchell, is it?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, it was his A24 film, and
I will watch it.
Caught the film the other day at the Edinburgh International Film Festival, and
great. Glad to hear that.
Yeah, it was great to see it on a big screen, and it's definitely one of the highlights of the festival for me. But I'd love to know how did you get involved with the film? How did it come to your attention?
Well, I had moved to LA, and I was looking to develop a film with a female writer-director and something that was kind of female-driven. And I kind of met with a lot of directors and writers and hadn't really met with anyone or read anything that I really connected with. And then I met Alexandra. And she told me about the script, which at the time was called Highway. And I loved the idea of it. And I love the idea of these missing girls and what happened to them and that kind of mystery. And things I'd just moved to the States and moved to California, and I'd done a bit of traveling, and you see all these kind of posters of missing women, and there's kind of this eerie sense of what happened to these women, and does anyone care? And I liked kind of the idea of exploring that, and that's where it really began. And that was in, I think, September 2015, so a long time ago now. And then myself and Alex looked at developing the script, and then I went about finding finance for it, which took about a year and a half.
And when you were sort of looking to get finance, what was it that you would say that this is the selling point, this is why you would want to invest in this movie? Was it sort of the story, or was it that you can do a lot for diversity here by investing in this sort of female-driven film? What was it that could get the money in the door?
I suppose, the funny thing is, because, it was so important to me, first of all, to kind of be behind somebody like Alex and putting her voice forward and putting the story forward. Like, it's a really important story for me, and something I hadn't seen before. And it did happen around the whole kind of Me Too, diversity kind of time. And then, as soon as almost like, I became to the bandwagon here. And it wasn't that at all. It was that this was such an important time for so many people to be telling these stories, and it just happened that it was all happening at the same time, which was great. So when it came to selling it, of course, that was the selling point of, it's a female-driven story. It's about strong women making decisions and power in friendships. And for us selling it, when eventually we did get finance, that was what sold it for them. They really liked the idea that it was a female story. And obviously myself and Alex being female, and, it was really important for us to kind of have, the casting through as diverse in every way as possible. And that kind of led through, and then that, we stayed true to that, and that's what got us to finance, which is great.
You've kind of previously worked with Lucy Fry and Josh Hartnett. How did you sort of get them involved in this film? Lucy Fry was someone I'd never heard of before until I caught this film the other day, and she's got such a great stage presence, screen presence, where I'm like, I want to see more of her and things like this. How did you sort of come to find her and get her involved in this film?
Oh, absolutely. Like, Lucy, to me, is she's absolutely one of the most talented actresses I've ever worked with. And, she was so genuine in her performance, and she really did become the character. She absolutely, she said to me months later, I met up with her, and she was like a different person. And I kind of said to her, God, I feel like I'm meeting Lucy for the first time, because she really did, it was all-encompassing for her. But how she became involved was Deanna Brigady, who was the casting director, had been kind of tracking Alex's career, and she got involved very early on before we had finance, and she really, really helped with the search for Heidi and Jane, like casting, not actually looking for them. So we had loads of girls and tape around that age, and we saw, I think we saw about 100 girls in the end. But Deanna was really picky about who she sent us, but we just couldn't find, exactly what we were looking for. And then we saw Lucy's tape, and it was so raw and exactly what the character was. And she also brought a lot out that, we didn't expect. So that's how we got Lucy. It was a complete find, and I think she's the heart of the film. And then with Josh, I'd worked with Josh on Penny Dreadful, and we got to know each other a little bit. And when I read the script, I really thought the character Ren would suit Josh. So I just thought, I'd reach out to him and see if he liked the script, and he loved the script, and that was that. That was not that. It took a long time, but we got him, so that was great. And he came out to New Mexico for a couple of days for the shoot. But yeah, it was great to have someone of his level involved as well.
You touched on it, like you'd worked on Penny Dreadful. You've got like such an exciting background of working sort of TV and film. What experiences were you able to bring to something like this, to this kind of feature film project?
Yeah, I don't think I could have made She's Missing without the experience I had, but saying that so much happened on She's Missing that I'd never come across before as well. It was a really small indie, and it was our first film shooting in the US as well. So, I kind of came from working on bigger shows like Penny Dreadful and Vikings in a smaller capacity in Ireland to suddenly then producing a film in a desert in the US. And, there was issues with unions and there's different ways of working, getting our head around all of that. So it was really challenging, but I think everything I'd done before kind of really stood to me when we were out there. And I suppose every shoot you're on, you're learning something. There's always a different drama to deal with, and it's just knowing with the experience you have that you'll always get through it, and there's a way of solving things. I think it's the experience of every new film and every new project.
What are you like as sort of a producer? Are you someone that's like there from the beginning, and then but when it's kind of shooting time, do you take a step back, or are you there sort of on set every day, sort of helping in any way you can?
It depends on the project. I mean, always anything that I have produced now has pretty much been my heart and soul. So I will kind of be on from the beginning right through to the end. But something like She's Missing, because it was so indie, I was production managing as well as producing. So it was kind of a 24-hour job, and we had finance from the UK and the Irish Film Board. So, we were taking calls at 6 a.m. and then starting shoot, kind of later on and shooting into the evening, and then taking more calls and then managing everything and to watching dailies. So yeah, I mean, for She's Missing, it was full on for everyone. It was a full-time job for Alex. It was, I suppose, a typical indie in terms of everybody was wearing a lot of hats.
With the film now, it's sort of I've seen it now at the film festival. What's sort of the journey that the film's making at the moment? And if people are listening to this, where can people kind of seek out the film?
So we are from July 1st. It's available on VOD. So that's on iTunes and Sky and a few other. Yeah, so it's available basically from July 1st in the UK. And then in the US, we are going to be released in the autumn. So our distributor, Vertical, we haven't, our plan hasn't been rolled out yet, so our aim is to get it out kind of in the autumn.
That'll be quite exciting as well. And do you see sort of the benefits in that, you get these simultaneous releases where you can, here it is all in the world now in the UK, you can see it on iTunes, Sky, wherever you sort of people prefer, so that people are able to see these films, because you think of some things like She's Missing and kind of other similar films where they can maybe get that small window at the cinema, and by the time the word of mouth comes out, it's maybe gone. Is this sort of the future for films like this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of publicity and press, the best thing for us has been the festivals, and places like Edinburgh is, it's just brilliant to screen somewhere like that, and as you say, to see it in a big screen, because it is, it's a beautiful film to see with the landscape in New Mexico and how it's shot, and it's wonderful to have it on a big screen. But the reality is, a lot of people obviously are not going to go to the cinema to see something like She's Missing, or in general to go to see a film unless it's a huge blockbuster. So yeah, having it on all the platforms is brilliant. It just means it's accessible, and we can finally say to people, yeah, you can watch it here, and we hope people do.
And what's next for yourself? Is there anything that we should keep an eye out for? Any exciting productions, or is She's Missing going to be keeping you going for the next while?
She's Missing will keep me going for a while. I'm working on a TV series called 4 Weddings and a Funeral, and it's a TV series of Richard Curtis's movie. So that's keeping me busy production-wise, and then we have a couple of projects in development as well. So yeah, exciting times, but looking forward for everyone to see She's Missing. So yeah.
Absolutely, you won't want to miss this film. So thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it, and good luck.
Finally, on the red carpet for closing night, I speak with the legendary Timothy Spall and director Adrian Noble. Lowry, played by Timothy Spall, not yet established as an artist, works as a rent collector, walking up the streets of Salford, mixing with factory workers and observing the town closely. In the evening, he takes art classes and paints until the early hours of the morning. He is resolutely loyal and well-mannered towards his bitter mother, Elizabeth, played by Vanessa Redgrave, who tries to dissuade her bachelor son from pursuing his artistic ambitions and never misses a chance to tell him what a disappointment he is to her. Firstly, I speak with its director Adrian Noble, and then I speak with Timothy Spall.
Adrian, what attracted you to the story of Lowry, and what made you think I'm the one to bring this story to the screen?
Well, I love the writing of Martin Hesford, who's our screenplay writer. So I thought immediately, that sounds interesting when I was given it, and I love the fact that it's, in a way, he's taken the camera away from the famous Matchstick Men painter and focused it on his relationship with his mum, which is complicated, funny, abusive, really, actually. And you think, oh, thank God he got his paintings out into the public gallery, because he was nearly 50 and nobody knew he existed. It's an extraordinary story, amazing story.
And what's it like for yourself to, an English legend like that? Was there a pressure to bring that to the screen and do it justice?
Well, we had such wonderful help from the Lowry estate and from the Lowry Museum, and they welcomed us in this sort of way. And I think it's an important story because he's a working painter who even though he was, his painting now sell for 2 or 3 million quid. I still think there's snobbery that actually in the art world. I mean, I find it difficult to back that statement up, but I get an instinct. There's still a little bit of, he's a working class boy from Manchester.
American class boy, done good, and well done, and congratulations. What was it like to work with Vanessa Redgrave together to bring this story to life?
Well, it was tremendous. I mean, I've always been an admirer of her, and I've been an admirer of hers and her father's, and I mean, it was like working with somebody that, it's one of the great joys of my profession, working with the people you grew up watching and who are related to people that you enjoy. Even when I was a little kid, her father was one of my favourite actors, as has she been. So, yeah, I mean, and we're on a real journey together on this, and there were things in it, it changed slightly, the whole dynamic changed. You never know until two people come together, and we did not much rehearsal, so it was actually making it, finding it as we were going through with the director Adrian and everybody really, so it was a real journey of discovery.
And what was it like? You're one of the greatest actors of your generation to portray one of the greatest painters of their generation.
Could you say that again? Just.
What was it like what kind of crossovers of talents do you see in painting and acting, and what common interest did you see?
Well, it's all storytelling in one way or another, isn't it? It's all depiction of some feeling, deep feeling. It's all trying to make sense of something either emotionally or, dramatically or pictorially. I mean, a lot of, funny enough, although Lowry's paintings are, you can recognise the buildings, they are actually, a lot of them are composites, they're made up, and he painted mainly from his mind's eye. So a lot of what you see are buildings he knew, but they're also coming out of his mind, connected to other things, and they're a product of what's going on emotionally. So he's telling a pictorial emotional story with these buildings and these landscapes. Same way as you tell, you're telling a story about this happens in a general, banal way in a story, but underneath, what makes film more than actually theatre in a sense, is what's going on inside behind the eyes. So it's the same process. It's just a creative process of trying to make sense of what the bloody hell's going on in the world.
Oh, it just increased. I've always enjoyed from a very sort of superficial sense his work, but looking at it and thinking about it and looking at it a lot and identifying this sense of deep loneliness and this tension, this pull within him of this love for his mother, his desire to please her and doing it for her, and knowing that what he was doing was displeasing her, and to discover that that's more than just these quaint pictures that we all like to take, that song Matchstick Men, Matchstick and all that, which makes it quaint and heritage. It's not, it's deeply original and deeply interesting. And there are people that, there are some artists who consider themselves to be purists who still find it a little bit on the side of the naive. But I think there's a lot more skill in it, and a lot more true originality, and a lot more actual emotional feeling, and there's a map of someone's emotional life within them paintings. You have to look hard, and obviously it's for you to find it,
I don't think he would definitely wouldn't have said that himself, but I don't think you can look at them and see how striking they are, some of them, and how lonely some of them feel, and beautiful and bleak, but lonely but beautiful at the same time, which more or less is him.
Next, Timothy speaks about his passion for art and the work of Lowry.
It comes in fits and starts. It depends on whether I have the inclination and the time, the old saying, and often where I am. Sometimes places inspire you, and I find it now I paint more when I'm working than when I'm not, which is it's a funny thing. It's whatever you do, all the creative juices all get going, and that's when. So I often do a little bit when I'm doing that, and I quite often paint little pictures of presents and cards and things like that. A little bit. I thought about it. I had to do a little bit. There was a very excellent person who reproduced a lot of his work. I did quite a lot of paintings in between shots. So I went back and I was doing a lot of copies of his stuff and stuff in his vein. And there's going to be an exhibition at the Lowry Gallery in association with this. And some of the paintings I did are going to be in that, I believe. Yeah, well, I don't know if they're any good, but they're for good or bad, they're going to be on display, and that might be the reason I stopped doing it. I think it seems like abuse from the outside. All sorts of families you could have to a larger or lesser degree. There's some form of emotional abuse. It's actually part of bringing somebody up, isn't it? No, I think I looked at it incredibly subjectively from his point of view. Although obviously she was incredibly discouraging and was insulted to a certain degree by the work he concentrated on and what he was depicting. In a sense, it also spurred him on because it made you realise how dedicated he was to doing this and how compelled he was to record what his environment was. And doing it for her in a sense, because she was the most beloved character in his life. So doing it for her and displeasing her at the same time, very, very odd mixture. And I think if you look at the pictures, which I did a lot, you can see there's quite a lot of tension within that. There's a kind of loneliness and a beauty and a bleak beauty in that. And there's a sort of isolation in that, as well as obviously deeply within that pictorial there's an abstract isolation within that. But I think it's also all part of the stew that motivates an artist. It's often the misery as well as the happiness. It's often the misery that makes it work.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.
Welcome to Nerd